Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom with Jim. I'm excited that you're with me today. Today, I will continue speaking about what I consider as my 10 keys to success. In the first week, we talked about entering the day or starting with the right attitude. And of course, a positive attitude is the right attitude. I just had a few peanuts in there. One of them seems to be bothering me a little bit there. Okay. So week one, we talked about attitude. We got to have the right attitude when we enter into any type of activity. And if you go in with a negative attitude, of course, we know what the results more than likely will be. Then we talked the second week, we talked about knowing our why. Talked a little bit about Simon Sinek's golden circle, and we talked about what John Maxwell says about knowing our why and understanding the value of our why. Well, this week I'm going to share something with you that I think is important, but I think very few people realize just how valuable understanding the skill and applying the skill is to their success. So this week, I want to share with you about goal setting. And I have to be the very first one to be honest with you about that. I have not always been the best at goal setting. I've always had some goals, but I've not been one who sat down and really focused on identifying my goals. Well, that changed a few years ago when I became a recruiter with the Air National Guard. In fact, it was many years ago, but it was a point in my journey in my career where goal setting became very, very important. Now, I'll have to admit, the goals were set for me early on. This is what we want you to do if you're going to be successful in this journey of being a production recruiter with the Air National Guard. So I had someone else telling me what my goals were, but I also had personal goals that I felt like I wanted to accomplish along the way. Now, I didn't really understand the value of having specific measurable goals at that time, but I learned more about that as I journeyed through my path to becoming better in everything that I've done in my life. But goal setting was perhaps one of the most important. Now, there are thousands and thousands of articles and videos and podcasts and books written about goal setting. And I can tell you that goal setting is something that most thought leaders say that only a few of us actually do. A small percentage of the population actually sets real goals. Actually sits down and writes out what they want to accomplish. In fact, some studies show that people spend more time planning their vacations than they do planning their goals and planning their careers. So today, I just want to share a few things with you about goal setting and things that I think can help us as we move forward in our journey, wherever you are, whether you're just starting your journey, or whether you're like me, who is far along in where I am and where I want to go. But it doesn't really matter as long as we start. You know, most of us find ourselves standing at that starting line and not knowing where we need to go from there. But if we have well-defined, clearly defined, measurable goals, then we can certainly at least have steps that we can put in place to help us get to those goals. So the first thing that I always think about when I'm goal planning and goal setting is, what is the vision? What is it that I want to accomplish? What's the end that I want to reach? You know, Stephen Covey says we need to start with the end in mind. So if we go back and we look at our why, so why kind of drives everything we should do. If your why is strong enough and is attached to your goals, then your chances of accomplishing them increase exponentially. Additionally, writing down your goals, putting them on paper where you can visualize those every day is another tool or skill that you can incorporate that will help you improve your goal setting journey. Now, there's the story or the acronym that people use often about goals when you're setting goals, and that's the SMART goal. And it's not anything that you folks that are watching here today are not aware of. Because I would be willing to bet that you fit in the population of those folks who do set goals, who do have goals, who do know where you want to go and where you want to end up in this year. So when you start thinking about the SMART goals, SMART, very specific. What is it? Can you tell me clearly and definitely what that goal is? What is it that you expect to accomplish? Is it to earn $100,000, $200,000, or $1 million? Or is it to read 35 books in a year? Is it to go on a vacation with your family? Where do you want to go on that vacation with your family? Is it very, very, very specific? And if you can nail it down to that specific destination, then you're well on your way to accomplishing your goal. Now, here's what happens with most people. They'll have a list of 1,000 goals, 100 goals. Let's tailor that thing down to about 10 goals. And if you can tailor it down to 10 goals, you're making progress. But the truth about this is that you've got to be very, very specific of which one of those goals is your highest priority. Now, I have goals. I have lots and lots of goals. And I have my journal that I have goals written down in. And I transfer those goals in my journal. Every time I change journals, I write them in the front of my journal so that I have them right there in front of me. But what I have them in is I have them in an order: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And in that list, I focus the majority of my energy on the top 2 goals. The Pareto principle tells us that we need to spend 80% of our time on 20% of our productivity. And if you can clearly define what your top 2 goals are, then you could spend 80% of your time focusing on those. And I promise you, if you do that, you will have a greater chance of accomplishing whatever those 2 goals are. Maybe 3. I'm not going to tell you that 2 is the magic number. But I'm going to tell you, if it's more than 3 or 4, then the chances are you're going to get lost in there and you won't get them accomplished at a rate that you want to get them accomplished. So think about that. Very specific, very, 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 very clearly defined, so you know what that goal is. And understand that it has to be connected with your why. If your why is not strong enough and connected with those goals, then it's going to make it more difficult for you to accomplish them. Number 2, and this is the one we often fail at, is it measurable? I mean, can you actually measure the results? Can you actually measure the steps that you're taking to accomplish that goal? Sounds simple, doesn't it? But not everything is measurable. And what happens is most people don't want to measure it because it opens their eyes to the fact that they're not doing what they need to do to accomplish the goal that they need to accomplish. So measurement is so important. And when we can measure, here's the saying, it's what gets measured gets done. So one of my goals is to do these Wednesday wisdoms once a week for 52 weeks. Now, it's pretty easy to measure that because weeks come every 7 days. So I know that if I don't do one, then I've missed my goal. That's easily measured. But what about the activities that are required to help you accomplish that specific goal, that clearly defined goal that you've established? What about the steps that you have to take to get there? How many phone calls do you have to make? How many contacts do you have to make? How many people do you have to engage with? How many live videos do you have to produce? And while I think it has to be a definite number, I think it really needs to be as many as it takes. But you have to be specific with your goal, make sure it's measurable, the activities, and clearly take the steps that have to be accomplished. SMA. What's A? A, attainable. Can you actually accomplish that goal? You know, there are a lot of things that I can do, and there are a lot of things that I can't do. Now, here's one thing that I love to say. This is just a little funny something, but you know, there's not many things that I can't put in enough effort to become. But as I watch my granddaughter on the stage performing her ballet and what the beautiful moves and the ballerina that she is, there is no way that Jim Hatchell could ever actually perform those types of moves. So I could never set a goal that says I want to be a ballerina, because that's just not going to happen. It's just not attainable. It's just not something I could do. Nor could I do what my other granddaughter does in her gymnastics. Swinging on the bars, walking on the balance beam, flips on the balance beam. That's a good way for Jim Hatchell to break something. And I'm not talking about a vase or a glass. I'm talking about bones or a back or a neck. But those things are unattainable for me. So what is it that you can clearly attain? And is it attainable? Because if it's something that you can't actually accomplish, then what's going to happen? You're going to give up. You're going to stop. You're going to say, well, I just can't do that. So I'm done. I'm not going to do it. So what's next? Nothing. You don't have any other goals. So, you know, make sure you can clearly accomplish, attain what it is that you are after. The next one is SMAR, SMART. R. Is it realistic? Is it relevant? Is it something that needs to be done? And this is a thing that a lot of people, you know, they set goals, but there's no real reason for having that goal. There's no relevance in it. And if there's no relevance in it, how can you tie that back to your why? How can you be specific? How can that be measurable? And how can that be attainable if it's not relevant? So make sure it's something that is relevant or realistic. And the last one, is it time-based? Do you have a specific time that you want to realize that accomplishment? I want to be independently wealthy. Well, when do you want that to happen? Today, tomorrow, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Thinking about all of the things that I've already shared with you. Is it something that can be measured? Is it attainable? Is it realistic? And is it measured? Can you put a time stamp on when that is to be accomplished? And if you can't, then you'll keep pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off. It doesn't add any urgency to accomplishing the goal if there's no timestamp on it. So this year, Dale and I said we wanted to, when this pandemic is over. We want to take a vacation. And so we said, okay, when can we go? And we said, well, it looks like things are going to start to be better and more open probably in the summer. So we selected a date. We said, okay, we can go. We want to go somewhere in the Caribbean. We want to go to an island. So we want to try to get it in before hurricane season, although it seems like hurricane season is starting a little early this year. So we said we want to go somewhere between the end of the 1st of July and the middle of August. And if we can go sometime in between there, then we can make that happen. And then we finally got down to the specific date. Okay, we got other activities that are going to be happening with the grandkids during this time. We've got other family members who are going to be away during this time. So we need to think about, okay, that really just kind of narrows it down for us. And then we had to be very specific about the location and all of those things that we needed to do in preparing for a vacation. And like I said, planning that vacation sometimes got more important than anything else on our journey. But my point is this, is that we had to get very smart about setting that goal and setting any goal, whether it's goals to expand your business, whether it's goals to expand your family relationships, your community relationships, or whatever activity that you desire to accomplish. Being very specific about it, being clear about it, is the most important thing you can do. And determining the most important items on your list of goals, that priority, those 2 or 3 goals that are most important to accomplishing and getting the results you desire. So as you think about goal setting, remember this, that people who set goals have a greater opportunity of succeeding in accomplishing those goals than people who don't. So write them down, make them very specific, put them where you can see them, where you're reminded about them every day. And I promise you, you'll have much greater success in accomplishing your goals. That's step number 3 in my 10 keys to success. Now, when do we do that? When do we set those goals? The day you decide you want to accomplish something. Now, a lot of people at the beginning of each year sit down and figure out what their accomplishments, what they want to accomplish throughout the year. I know one of my mentors, John Maxwell, says he takes a whole week to stop and reflect on what he's accomplished in the past year. And then he starts thinking about, okay, what do I want to accomplish the next year? Now, I used to do that, but I haven't done it in a while. The pandemic kind of got in the way. And so the goals that we've had for the last year are basically to stay home, be safe, be with our family, and enjoy the time that we've had together. But the pandemic is almost over. We're about to be fully blown out there, going full blast again. And I think there are some of you that are already in that boat. And you're going down that river just as fast as you can. And I applaud you for taking those actions. And I hope you stay safe. I'm on that path too, because I've got great plans for the rest of this year. And I've already started planning for my 2022, which I plan to have a much greater success, well, much better success, to be more goal-oriented in 2022. Now, I do have a few things that I've got planned for the rest of the year. In fact, I've got a couple of events that I will be posting and sharing that will be starting in September. I will put those on my webpage as well as on my Facebook pages. But they all have to do with trainings and webinars that can help you grow you to your best potential, to your highest level of success. I'll be doing John Maxwell's 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, a webinar. I'll be doing a webinar, and I will be doing a mastermind group where we'll get down and study that material in depth, and we'll talk about how we can work on ourselves to grow to become our best versions. You know, life is a journey. Success is a journey. Potential and reaching our highest level of potential is a journey. And I encourage you to think about how you can sharpen your saw as you journey forward in 2021. It's hard to believe that we are well into July. Well, not well in, but we're getting into July. But gosh, can you believe it? It's July. Before we know it, we'll be singing Christmas carols and anticipating the new year and ready to blast off in 2022. Well, I hope this information was of value to you. For those of you who are here on the live feed, I appreciate you. For those of you who are watching the replay, hey, listen, thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you do. My life's goal is to lift, inspire, and motivate others. And if I've impacted your journey in any way, I would appreciate it if you just let me know. Just say, hey, Jim, I appreciate what you shared. I'm going to be using it in my journey, and I look forward to sharing more with you down the road. Hey, y'all have a great day, and I'll chat with you next Wednesday for another Wednesday Wisdom with Jim.